You're under arrest for breaking into my house!
Imagine thinking you finally found a peaceful, gated community to call home, only to discover the HOA president has a duplicated key to your front door. That was Jamal Rivers' reality barely a week after he moved in. Helena Ward, the racist HOA president who ruled Crestwood Meadows like a dictator, had been watching him from the moment he unloaded his boxes, and she waited for the perfect moment to let herself into his house, just like she'd secretly done to the neighbors who were too scared to fight back. So the morning she thought Jamal had left for work, Helena walked straight up to his door with her stolen key, ready for another one of her illegal inspections, completely unaware that Jamal had circled back through the rear entrance, standing inside in full police uniform, waiting for her to cross the line she'd crossed too many times. When Jamal Rivers moved into Crestwood Meadows, he thought he'd finally found the quiet life he'd been craving. A gated community, neatly trimmed lawns, houses lined in perfect symmetry. On the surface, everything looked safe, calm, and predictable. The realtor had called it the cleanest neighborhood in the county. Jamal believed her. He should have asked who kept it that way. Because within the first week, Helena Ward appeared, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, the racist HOA president, the woman who patrolled the community like she owned the deeds to every brick. She introduced herself with a clipboard in one hand and superiority in the other. From the very first moment she laid eyes on Jamal, tall, black, and uninterested in bowing to her, her smile tightened, her tone sharpened, and her obsession began. Jamal had barely unpacked before Helena made it clear. She ran Crestwood Meadows, and he was expected to obey. Every morning, her silver SUV crept past his driveway. Every afternoon, she slowed down long enough to stare. Every night, porch lights flickered on the moment he stepped outside. The neighbors whispered about her. They warned him in grocery aisles, parking lots, and while pretending to check their mail. Helena monitored everyone, but she especially monitored him, and she didn't hide it. "Be careful," one older neighbor whispered. "She's had keys duplicated for half the street." That was the first rumor. More followed. Helena had secretly banned porch cameras, claiming they ruined the aesthetic. In reality, she didn't want evidence because when residents went to work, Helena let herself in. She called it HOA inspections. Residents called it what it was, trespassing. Those who questioned her suddenly found themselves fined, harassed, or mysteriously evicted. Most gave up resisting. Others moved out quietly. Helena was winning until Jamal arrived. He was a single man, lived alone, kept to himself. But Helena treated him like a threat. She lectured him about lawn height, garbage day, fence color, and imaginary bylaws. Jamal played along at first because he'd signed the rules and didn't want trouble. But Helena's tone, her smirks, her barely disguised racism, they didn't sit right with him. Then he learned the truth about her break-ins. And that's when Helena made her biggest mistake, assuming Jamal was just another new resident she could push around. What she didn't know was that Jamal wasn't just a homeowner. He was a police officer. And her last inspection was going to be the one that ended everything. By the end of Jamal's first week, he already knew Helena wasn't just annoying, she was dangerous. Neighbors told him how she let herself into homes with duplicated keys, how she wrote fake violation notices, and how she quietly ran Crestwood Meadows like a kingdom with frightened residents as her subjects. The security gate even alerted her whenever police or unexpected visitors entered, giving her enough time to slip out of any house she was trespassing in. It was a system built on fear, gossip, and total control. But Jamal wasn't built to bend, and Helena wasn't built to handle someone who didn't bow. Rumors of her illegal inspections reached him fast, and as a police officer, he knew exactly what that meant. She was committing crimes with zero consequences. She believed the neighborhood was hers. She believed the residents were hers. And she believed Jamal would be hers to intimidate like everyone else. She had no idea he was waiting for her. Jamal had been on a week of approved leave from the department, which meant the day Helena thought he was going back to work was the day he planned to finally expose her. He woke early, dressed in casual clothes, grabbed his keys, and stepped outside casually, making sure Helena's camera-free system and watchful eyes saw everything. At 8:12 a.m., he backed his car out of the driveway. At 8:14, Helena's SUV rolled past slowly, At 8:15, her window cracked open, just enough to watch him drive off. Perfect. Jamal didn't go far. He parked 3 blocks away behind a row of tall hedges, stepped out quietly, and walked back through the community's rear trail. No cameras. Helena had banned those. No neighbors outside. Most were already at work. He'd spent days planning the timing down to the minute. Helena always struck fast. Her pattern was predictable. He slipped into his backyard, unlocked his rear door, and stepped inside without turning on a single light. Within minutes, he swapped his casual clothes for his full police uniform, badge polished, duty belt secured, body cam activated. If Helena wanted to enforce fake authority, he was about to enforce real law. Then it happened. At 8:20, the front doorknob rattled. At 8:21, a key slid into the lock. At 8:22, the door pushed open. Have you ever dealt with someone who thought they owned an entire neighborhood just because they had a title? What would you do if the HOA president tried to break into your home with a duplicate key? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe no one, not even an HOA president, should ever have a key to your house, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because standing up to abuse of power starts with telling these stories. Helena pushed the door open confidently, then froze so violently she almost dropped the duplicated key. Jamal stood in the center of the living room, full police uniform, arms crossed, staring directly at her. Helena's scream ripped out of her throat before she could stop it. What? No. How are you in here? She stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. I watched you leave. I watched you drive out. You can't be here. Jamal didn't move. He didn't blink. I never left, he said quietly, and the simple truth hit her harder than a punch. For the first time since Jamal moved into Crestwood Meadows, Helena Ward had no script, no authority, and no audience to intimidate. She stood frozen in the doorway, fingers clenched around the duplicated key she had just used, her breath sharp and uneven. Jamal didn't raise his voice. He didn't move. He simply watched her, arms crossed, letting the weight of her own actions crush her. How are you here? She finally sputtered. You went to work. I never left, he said calmly. I knew exactly what you planned to do today. Helena's throat bobbed hard as she swallowed. Her eyes kept darting between his uniform and the cuffs on his belt. This is an HOA inspection, she blurted, talking too fast, words tripping over themselves. Part of community regulations. We check for hazards, safety hazards. Jamal raised one eyebrow, the kind of look that strips lies clean off a person. Then show me the regulation, he said. Helena froze, her lips parted, but nothing came out except panic-smeared nonsense. It's internal, a confidential policy, not publicly posted. You wouldn't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, Jamal replied, stepping toward her slowly. His tone dropped, calm, professional, lethal. I understand criminal trespass. Another step. I understand unlawful entry. Her back hit the wall. I understand breaking and entering with a duplicated key. She shut her eyes tight like she could make him disappear. And I understand impersonating authority you don't have. Helena's whole face collapsed. That's not what this is. I didn't mean. You meant exactly what you did, Jamal said. And you've been doing it to everyone else. Her knees buckled slightly. The key in her hand rattled. Every ounce of fake confidence she'd built over the years drained out like a punctured balloon. This was the moment Helena realized she wasn't an HOA president anymore. She was a criminal standing in front of a police officer she'd just broken into. Helena took a step back, panic rising fast. You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president. And I'm a police officer, Jamal answered, pulling out his cuffs. Your title doesn't put you above state law. The moment the cuffs clicked around her wrists, Helena shrieked. The sound tore through the quiet morning as if someone had ripped the sky open. Let go of me. This is illegal. You're assaulting an HOA official. I run this community. You ran, Jamal corrected. Past tense. He guided her toward the entryway, reading her rights while she kicked, twisted, and tried to pull away. When he radioed dispatch for officer backup, her eyes widened even more. You called the actual police, she gasped. You broke into a home, Jamal said. What did you think was going to happen? Helena started babbling, half lies, half excuses, as he escorted her onto the porch. By then, the noise had drawn attention. Curtains slid open, doors cracked. A few neighbors stepped outside, pretending to water plants while their phones secretly recorded. The security gate guards arrived first, stunned to see their queen in handcuffs. Helena screamed at them to help her, but they froze like statues. Moments later, real patrol cars rolled in, sirens off, lights flashing. Officer Reynolds and Officer Hale stepped out, both startled by the scene. "What's going on here?" Reynolds asked. Jamal showed his badge, then the duplicated key still dangling from Helena's hand. "She broke into my home," he said, "and she's been doing the same to everyone else." Helena's face collapsed as the truth she'd been hiding for months finally came into the light. The arrival of the patrol officers marked the end of Helena Ward's reign. Her voice, once sharp enough to silence an entire neighborhood, was now reduced to frantic, broken pleas. Neighbors stepped out cautiously, phones raised, capturing the downfall of the woman who had spent years terrorizing them with fines, threats, and fake authority. The officers listened as Jamal laid everything out clearly: her unauthorized key, the break-in attempt, the false inspection, the pattern of harassment echoed by nearly every resident present. Helena's excuses shattered one by one. She insisted she had HOA rights, but Officer Hale cut her off quickly. "HOA regulations don't override state laws," he said firmly. "You entered this home without permission. That's a crime, not a rule." Her face drained of color as Reynolds collected statements from neighbors who had long stayed quiet out of fear. One after another described how Helena had entered their homes, threatened them with violations, or used her position to intimidate anyone who tried to push back. The gate security team chimed in too. They quietly admitted Helena demanded notifications anytime law enforcement approached the gate, a tactic she used to escape homes before officers arrived. It was the final piece confirming that her behavior was not just controlling, but deliberate, coordinated, and criminal. Helena's angry protests faded as she was placed into the patrol car, her voice cracking with disbelief. "You can't do this! I built this neighborhood! You'll regret this!" But no one looked intimidated anymore. For the first time, Crestwood Meadows stood without fear. Later that week, Helena Ward was permanently removed, banned from ever holding HOA authority again, and reported to the state. Multiple residents filed civil complaints, and the district attorney hit her with charges for unlawful entry, harassment, and misuse of power. Her entire empire collapsed in a single afternoon. As peace returned, neighbors thanked Jamal for standing his ground. He only smiled and said, "Justice works best when it's done together." And just like that, Crestwood Meadows finally belonged to its residents, not its dictator. If you believe people who abuse power should always face real consequences, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because some fights aren't about rules at all. They're about protecting your home from the people who think they own it.